We are at Suburban Hospital for Mind Body Week 2013 with Congressman Tim Ryan. I'm Yasi. Congressman Tim Ryan, you wrote a book, which is here, A Mindful Nation.
Yes. Amazon.com.
That's where we can get it.
That's it.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about your work. And to start, I just wanted to know how you came across mindfulness and meditation, and why you started your own personal practice.
Like a lot of people, I flirted with different types of meditation growing up, and grew up Catholic and the Rosary and then centering prayer and other types. And then in about 2008, I knew I needed to jumpstart some type of meditation practice. Just my stress levels were very high. And I found a mindfulness retreat. It was called The Power of Mindfulness. And John Kabat-Zinn ran it. And I spent 5 days getting into more and more silence, and by the end, it really touched me as a great practice for me to be able to synchronize my mind and my body, reduce my stress, increase my focus, help me be a little bit nicer of a guy. And so that's how I got into the mindfulness practice, and then I started learning a lot about the science behind it, who was doing it, the Marines, and a lot of corporations. Phil Jackson, the great basketball coach of the Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers. So a lot of people that had a lot of appeal to the mainstream were already doing it, and so I just fell in love with the practice, but it seemed easier to talk about it because of the science behind it, who was doing it.
And if you wanted to bring mindfulness programs to the nation, where would you start? Would you start with children, with veterans? What population would you start with?
Well, I think wherever people are is where they should start. I don't think it's going to be a top-down, you do this, you do this. It's not somehow centralized. I think it's going to be very organic. And I think people who try it and they feel like it's helped them in some way, and they feel like they're moved to try to spread the word that it can be helpful, start where you are. You know, if you have a son or a daughter in the military and they're on a tour and there's a family support group, start it there. If you have a kid in school, you're concerned about technology and too much information and peer pressure and all of this stuff, start it in school. You know, go to the local school board. Like wherever you are, that's where you should start it. Medical is another opportunity.
And what is the role of meditation and mind-body practices in healthcare reform?
Well, healthcare reform is still being fleshed out in a lot of ways, but I think when insurance companies now have to cover everybody, and I think that changes the business model for a lot of insurance companies. So instead of the game being how do I cover only healthy people so we can have increased profits, they now have to cover everyone, and so there's an incentive now built into the system for insurance companies to keep people healthy. And I think as we continue to build the scientific case for practices like mindfulness, that insurance companies will start to cover it and even promote it in wellness programs, because at the end of the day, it's going to keep their patients, their clients, healthy. So I think it has a big, big space in healthcare.
Do you see mindfulness being added to the standard of care in healthcare reform as a treatment option?
I hope so. I'm not, foolish enough to think it'll happen overnight, but I think over time it can be something that a lot of physicians and people involved in the healthcare business find very, very helpful. When you look and you see that about 75% of healthcare costs are related to behavioral issues, you begin to see integrative medicine and things like mindfulness as a real path forward for us in prevention. Because a lot of these things can be prevented. Some can't, but then we'll have money freed up to address the things that we can't necessarily change through some of this stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time today. Thanks. And thank you for again joining Mind Body Week and for sharing your book, A Mindful Nation, with us.
Thank you for sharing my book, Mindful Nation, with everyone else.